Here are some lesser-known and shocking facts about ancient Egypt. Like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Number 8. They did not ride camels. The camel was not used regularly in Egypt until the very end of the dynastic age. Instead, the Egyptians used donkeys as beasts of burden, and boats as a highly convenient means of transport. The river Nile flowed through the center of their fertile land, creating a natural highway, and so the current helped those who needed to row from south to north, while the wind made life easy for those who wished to sail in the opposite direction. The river was linked to settlements, quarries, and building sites by canals. Huge wooden barges were used to transport grain, and heavy stone blocks, like papyrus boats, ferried people about their daily business. And every day, high above the river, the sun god Ra was believed to sail across the sky in his solar boat. Number 7. Egyptian women had equal rights with men. In Egypt, men and women of equivalent social status were treated as equals in the eyes of the law. This meant that women could own, earn, buy, sell and inherit property. They could live unprotected by male guardians and, if widowed or divorced, could raise their own children. They could bring cases before, and be punished by, the law courts. And they were expected to deputize for an absent husband in matters of business. Everyone in ancient Egypt was expected to marry, with husbands and wives being allocated complementary but opposite roles within the marriage. The wife, that mistress of the house, was responsible for all internal, domestic matters. She raised the children and ran the household, while her husband, the dominant partner in the marriage, played the external, wage-earning role. Number 6. The king of Egypt could be a woman. Ideally, the king of Egypt would be the son of the previous king. But this was not always possible, and the coronation ceremony had the power to convert the most unlikely candidate into an unassailable king. On at least 3 occasions women took the throne, ruling in their own right as female kings and using the full king's titulary. The most successful of these female rulers, Hatshepsut, ruled Egypt for more than 20 prosperous years. In the English language, where a king is gender-specific, we might classify Sobeknefru, Hatshepsut and Torsret as queens regnant. In Egyptian, however, the phrase that we conventionally translate as queen literally means king's wife, and is entirely inappropriate for these women. Number 5. Few Egyptian men married their sisters. Some of Egypt's kings married their sisters or half-sisters. These incestuous marriages ensured that the queen was trained in her duties from birth, and that she remained entirely loyal to her husband and their children. They provided appropriate husbands for princesses who might otherwise remain unwed, while restricting the number of potential claimants for the throne. They even provided a link with the gods, several of whom, like Isis and Osiris, enjoyed incestuous unions. However, brother-sister marriages were never compulsory, and some of Egypt's most prominent queens, including Nefertiti, were of non-royal birth. Incestuous marriages were not common outside the royal family until the very end of the dynastic age. The restricted Egyptian kingship terminology, father, mother, brother, sister, son, and daughter being the only terms used, and the tendency to apply these words loosely so that sister could with equal validity describe an actual sister, a wife or a lover, has led to a lot of confusion over this issue. Number 4. Scribes rarely wrote in hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphic writing, a script consisting of many hundreds of intricate images, was beautiful to look at, but time-consuming to create. It was therefore reserved for the most important texts, the writings decorating tomb and temple walls, and texts recording royal achievements. As they went about their daily business, Egypt's scribes routinely used hieratic, a simplified or shorthand form of hieroglyphic writing. Towards the end of the dynastic period, they used demotic, an even more simplified version of hieratic. All 3 scripts were used to write the same ancient Egyptian language. Few of the ancients would have been able to read either hieroglyphs or hieratic. It is estimated that no more than 10%, and perhaps considerably less, of the population was literate. Number 3. The living shared food with the dead. The tomb was designed as an eternal home for the mummified body and the Ka spirit that lived beside it. An accessible tomb chapel allowed families, well-wishers and priests to visit the deceased and leave the regular offerings that the Ka required, while a hidden burial chamber protected the mummy from harm. Within the tomb chapel, food and drink were offered on a regular basis. Having been spiritually consumed by the Ka, they were then physically consumed by the living. During the Feast of the Valley, an annual festival of death and renewal, many families spent the night in the tomb chapels of their ancestors. The hours of darkness were spent drinking and feasting by torchlight as the living celebrated their reunion with the dead. Number 2. Not everyone was mummified. The mummy, an eviscerated, dried and bandaged corpse, has become a defining Egyptian artifact. Yet mummification was an expensive and time-consuming process, reserved for the more wealthy members of society. The vast majority of Egypt's dead were buried in simple pits in the desert. So why did the elite feel the need to mummify their dead? They believed that it was possible to live again after death, but only if the body retained a recognizable human form. Ironically, this could have been achieved quite easily by burying the dead in direct contact with the hot and sterile desert sand. A natural desiccation would then have occurred. But the elite wanted to be buried in coffins within tombs, and this meant that their corpses, no longer in direct contact with the sand, started to rot. The twin requirements of elaborate burial equipment plus a recognizable body led to the science of artificial mummification. Number 1. The Great Pyramid was not built by slaves. The classical historian Herodotus believed that the Great Pyramid had been built by 100,000 slaves. His image of men, women and children desperately toiling in the harshest of conditions has proved remarkably popular with modern film producers. It is, however, wrong. Archaeological evidence indicates that the Great Pyramid was in fact built by a workforce of 5,000 permanent, salaried employees and up to 20,000 temporary workers. These workers were free men, summoned under the corvée system of national service to put in a 3 or 4 month shift on the building site before returning home. They were housed in a temporary camp near the pyramid, where they received payment in the form of food, drink, medical attention and, for those who died on duty, burial in the nearby cemetery. Thank you for listening. Let us know what you think. Also, remember to like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell.